We've already had the amazing panel this morning about big tech and big banks. Diving deeper into this topic is a fireside chat with Kimberly Waldron from SkyParlour and Suresh Viswanathan from TSB.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Delighted to have Suresh Viswanathan from TSB with me today. We've got a real opportunity to pick up on some of the topics that we touched upon in today's earlier panel around big banks and Coopetition. And I'm delighted that Suresh has agreed to come here and talk us through more of the practical applications of some of these big tech and fintech relationships and what that means for a bank like TSB. So if it's okay, if you don't mind, if you could start by sort of talking us through how you arrived at TSB with such an interesting job at an interesting time.
Okay. Firstly, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your time today. I hope it's a useful 20 minutes for all of you. So in terms of how I arrived at TSB, when I hung up my boots at Barclays, which is where I was for 11 years, I kind of basically said, no more banking. Certainly no more banking in the UK, all famous last words, right? So if you'd attended my farewell speech, these were all the things that I said. But then one of the directors in Barclays, he put me in touch with Debbie Crosby, the CEO of TSB, just to sort of go and have a chat. And something that I hold very dear to me is the whole aspect of stewardship, to actually leave something better than how you picked it up. And in that conversation, it was very clear that this was a brand that could do with a little bit of help. I hope that I could put my shoulder to the wheel and make a difference. And I think it's a great brand which went through a slightly bumpy time, but the opportunity ahead felt like it was too good to pass on. Yeah. And you also have to be at a certain stage of life, to be able to want that kind of a challenge. And I found myself there. Yeah. That's how I've been here. I think I complete 2 years next month at TSB.
So it's something that you're still very much in the thick of, the transformation or the digital transformation process. Can you talk to us a little bit about what Coopetition? I mean, I know it's a clunky word, but this is what we're here to talk about. And what does Coopetition mean for TSB and to you at the moment?
So I think we've gone through the phase where we thought banks would be taken out quite easily by a lot of the sort of startups. And I think we've come to a better place now, where we know that the problems facing our customers or the way we need to service our customers can be done better, more by people combining their strengths rather than only competing against each other. And I think it's look, for years and years, this is how we've always operated, right? I think there was a phase in between where it was a you or us, us or them kind of a phase. And I think that phase is probably now past us. And I think it's very clear to all of us that, there's greater value for our customers if we combine our strengths rather than ever before. So we are sort of bang in the middle of it, Kimberly. I think we've all come to the conclusion, and COVID's kind of, made us all a lot more humble than we perhaps were before, that it's the combination of things that adds more value to customers.
Yeah, of course. And in terms of that partnership strategy, again, this morning, the panel touched upon approach to partnerships and risk appetite and prioritizing. Again, I think they mentioned that, banks are no strangers to complicated partnerships and how to put those together and manage them through. What at the moment is your top-line strategy when it comes to partnerships?
Look, we actively embrace it, and let me just give you a few sort of nuggets of what happened to us as we went through COVID and why partnerships is so important to us. At the time, COVID broke, we still were doing a lot of work for our customers in our branches, right? That's just the reality of who we were as a bank. And very quickly in the sort of 4-week window, we knew that we had to react. We had to do something different because customers just couldn't access us by going to the branch. So many use cases, if there was a bereavement and you had to inform us, you actually had to go to the branch to do that. You can't do that in COVID season. So we partnered up with Adobe to help us, with some level of forms capability so we could do sort of quick work for our customers so they didn't have to visit us in the branches. we didn't have the ability to sort of interactively talk to our customers. So we sort of strung together what we call TSB Smart Agent, but it's implementation of live person technology. It took us 5 working days to get it done. And what it taught us is that actually we spend a lot more time debating and analyzing the options rather than spend it on execution time for customers. And COVID taught us that we can actually go very, very fast, and that our competitive advantage as an organization is how fast we can decide, and therefore focus on execution rather than how long you take to get to the point where you start execution. And I can give you plenty of examples of where that came from. We work with Microsoft on the environment, right? Not just on Office 365. Yeah. They are a partner who's helping us on our sustainability agenda and how do we hit 2030 in the right way. We buddy up with a lot of fintechs and smaller startups, right? So we buddy up with a company called AppTap to make sure that we present a range of options on how customers might spend their money well if they're buying utilities, for example. And so there are multiple forces at work at the same time, right? One is the whole push to go digital. I think it was referenced in the earlier panel as well. COVID sort of forced all of us to get more digital. Then you evaluate yourself as a bank and you say, what exactly is banking in the 21st century? Is it just, helping you with fulfilling your dreams, or is there more that we can do with how your money health, or money confidence, as we call it, is managed? And so the partnerships are a great way of making sure we take capability that's out in the market to our customers, which we are obviously not going to manufacture ourselves. We are not going to go and find the best way of switching gas or switching your electricity provider. That's not our core competence, but that's something our customers need. And so it's great for us to be a vehicle to partner with whoever has the capability to take it to our customers.
And touching on something Joe Dewar from GPS mentioned, it's the innovation that has been driven into the UX of the banking and customer relationship. Is that something that is long-term going to be a partnership, or is it something that eventually will, it's happened quickly, you've used some innovative businesses to do things rapidly. Is that partnership, those partnerships going to be long-term, or are they going to get bought up, replicated, brought in-house? What's the outlook maybe for that sort of partnership?
Look, I think if you're getting a lot of value by interacting with customers, you are definitely going to have competition in that space, right? Unless you've done something uber cool, that's impossible to replicate. And nobody's got a right to exist in the long term unless they're adding value to their customers. And market forces will decide who's adding value and who's not. But there's no active strategy to do one or the other, right? There's an active strategy to partner.
Yeah.
And if at some stage you feel that that's a capability that needs to be in-house, then we'll go and do it. But right now we're very clear about us sort of being focused on banking, and anything that's surrounding banking but impacts the way people spend their money and live their lives, we will partner with.
And from a practical point of view, it's not just, we've got a neat piece of technology, we've got something innovative. You've got to have the right approach, the right culture, the right opportunity for integration into what the bank is doing. What do you look for when you're talking to partners? That's
an excellent question, right? I think the first thing we look for is whether this makes sense for customers, right? So we introduced a new sort of investments focused partner called Wealthify to our customers. That was only to make sure that if customers felt that they had a need to go and work on specific kinds of investments, like green investments is kind of, a very, very important consideration for customers right now, then we brought the right partner to the table. So I think number one, it must make sense to customers. Number two, it must, be something that's got a medium-term value proposition for customers. We can do some experiments, but we can't only do experiments with our customers, right? So it's got to be need-based. Then what we're also very focused on is how do we connect with these partners, right? We are sort of very wary of point-to-point connections, as we've done them in the past. So simple, elegant way of, connecting into us. We've got a certain definition of, what works for us and what doesn't work for us. And we're in the process, you probably saw we launched our marketplace just recently. And there are some fairly exciting, because what we don't want to do is to be in the business of lengthy curation, right? We want to make sure that the curation process for partners is quite simple. The way we onboard them is quite simple. And we've spent, I'd say, the last 12, 18 months working on all of those internal processes so we can be ready for scale. And we'll launch a scale platform before the end of the year. And hopefully more partners can come on board and help our customers on their journey.
Yeah, I think when we spoke previously, you mentioned that it is still a learning experience for both sides. So if we're specifically talking about relationship with banks and fintechs, there is still that learning to be had on both sides. And you talked a little bit about it's better to the fail fast concept to learn. Could you talk a little bit about what that means in practical terms?
So I think what happens is, right, when oftentimes in a larger institution, the decision-making process is really as slow as it gets, right? And many a time, if you're a small fintech trying to work with these large organizations, you run out of bandwidth to engage with 3 to 5 of them at the same time. Okay, so that, I think, is a big showstopper for many fintechs. So what we've tried to do is to say, look, let's make the call, once again, based on customer need. Let's make that decision fast. And then go through a process where we try and experiment sooner rather than later and figure out whether this works for customers or not. We've got a good sort of capability in our mobile platform where we can do beta testing with customers. We will actively start using that at a bit more scale so that we can try and fail faster than we are today.
Yeah.
Today, our analog decision-making process is good. We decide, on the partner first. To get them into the digital world still takes us a little bit of time. And that's the next sort of frontier we're trying to go and attack.
And you're able to feed in that customer feedback through that beta process, which I guess is helpful, isn't it? Because we talk about what we think, a lot of what we think customers want, or
Quite right.
what we think consumers want. But
see, there's nothing like actually doing some level of testing with customers to see if they like it or not.
Yeah.
You can sit in a bank and pontificate till the cows come home. But it's sometimes easier to just get customers to vote with their feet.
Yeah.
And if you've got the framework that allows you to do that without becoming an experimentation shop, this is people and their money, so you have to be very thoughtful about how you engage them. I think there's room for more to be done for customers.
Yeah, and continuing on from that, in your opinion, what do you think so far has been the results of, we know big tech and bank collaboration has been around for a long time, but in terms of that user experience, functionality, engagement with customers, just improving life, what would you say have been the big wins so far?
So far, I can talk about at least the 2 or 3 that we have experimented with. Wealthify is a very interesting, use case for us. We are doing sort of single-digit millions, and every week we can see this actually increasing in terms of usage for our customers. We are introducing something called Bud. I don't know if you've heard of them. Especially when customers walk in for advice in a branch on what can they do with the financial products that they have. It's easier to have an open banking view of their life rather than just a TSB view of their life. So we're beginning to use those products. I wouldn't say that this has significantly shifted the needle as yet in terms of our top line, if that's the question you're asking. But if we were that smart, we would have picked the 3 and we'd all be winners by now, right? So we acknowledge that there is a process of experimentation to find the best fit for us and for the fintechs in order that we can help our customers.
And then flipping it, just never forgetting the customers, but just for a second, who's got the greatest opportunity in terms of the value chain of big techs, banks, fintechs? Who's set to win? Fintechs want the distribution, banks want the support on the tech and the development and the infrastructure. We just had a whole panel on big tech and the capability, the potential there. Maybe big isn't better. Who's set to win?
So look, my sense is that the winning ticket is when, you raise the tide, not sort of take the other person's bucket of water, right? I think, so my sense is, fintech can win with banks, with customers. And, if you can get to that state, that's probably best for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think historically there's been a little bit of, if the fintechs have to win, the banks have to lose. I think we've now come to the conclusion that that's not actually true. And if you put the customer at the heart of it and you accept that banks have a great connectivity into them, it's really all about what capability are you putting in the hands of customers.
Yeah.
I think everyone can win.
Yeah, well, I agree, and that was my next question: is does the end user? I don't want it to be like a difficult question, but does the end user always feel the benefit of the development and of the?
So historically, when you look at some of it, right? I mean, if you think about things like packaged bank accounts, where things were bundled in, it probably started off as benefit to customer, but eventually, somewhere along the way, people might have lost their way. It's not always that customers feel the benefits. But in this era, when it's so easy to sort of disaggregate things, but keep it, in context for customers, I think, customers are also much better informed than they were perhaps, pre sort of Google searches and all those good things. That it's very difficult to sort of pull a fast one, if that's what you're saying. Yeah. I think that case has probably, diminished a lot now.
Yeah. I guess I wasn't. I guess my thinking was if there's a lot of pressure, especially on the fintech community, to deliver. There's a lot of funding pumped into it. There's a lot of pressure to innovate and to have to be offering competitive advantage to your banking partners. The pressure sometimes to get that development out there.
Yeah.
And adopt certain technologies. Are they actually making it, to the hands of consumers?
Difficult to tell. At least our experience so far, we've not had like 25 of these. We're probably a single-digit number, at this stage. We've made sure that, there's no poor quality stuff that goes in front of customers. That we've been very thoughtful about. I don't know. I haven't heard of other experiences, Kimberly, where, some really poor quality stuff went in the hands of customers, at least not banking, right? And I use a number of the banks just because of the time I've spent in the country and the places I've worked. I haven't seen that actually.
No.
No, I haven't.
And then I guess in the closing, we've got a couple of minutes left. It'd be good to hear, you say you're 2 years in to a job that you're passionate about, a challenge that you were excited to take on. Obviously making a big difference so far. What can we expect in the next 2 years?
So look, I think it's a journey for us, and I think the big element that we are focused on in the next sort of 18 months is to be famous for customer experience. When you look at customer experience league tables, we're not yet where we'd like to be. We're working very hard to get there, and time will tell, whether we are making a difference or not. That's the next mountain we're climbing.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that you're feeling a unique opportunity with TSB. The size of the bank, the position, the brand, to transform.
I think so. I think I'll be disappointed if we're not able to be talked about differently in the next 18 months. I think like I said earlier, Kimberly, making decisions fast is so critical. It doesn't mean you always get it right, but neither do you get it right because you took a long time. So we're trying to make sure we take the calls fast and get to execution for our customers. And hopefully they'll see the benefit.
Yeah. It's something that the last 16 months or so has proven.
We're getting better, right? Yeah. We're feeling good about where we are. We're still not where we'd like to be. And that keeps us honest, I think.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Suresh.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for your time.
No, you're very welcome. And thanks for being with us. And just everybody give a
thank you.